The protagonist turns on his computer and resumes a game. A war has broken out. He advances the humans into goblin territory, and they begin firing their firearms and cannons. The goblins, however, use magic to defend themselves. The protagonist summons warplanes, but they are easily shot down by fire spells. Watching from his computer screen, he clicks on the system window and decides to launch a nuclear strike against the goblins. Multiple bombs fill the sky as the goblins watch in terror. His opponent calmly states that he is well prepared and summons interceptor missiles, powered by faith-based technology. All the nuclear bombs are neutralized. However, the protagonist had hidden additional nuclear weapons in orbit, now descending directly toward the goblin territory. As the weapons approach, all the citizens begin praying to their god. Their prayers are heard, and a holy oak goblin is summoned to stop the attack. In this game, called Lost World, faith and prayers always produce tangible results. The protagonist considers his next move. His opponent is Hegemonia, ranked second on the server. Hegemonia laughs with confidence, certain of his victory. He has managed to increase the goblin population and gather vast amounts of faith in a short period of time. But the protagonist has already seen through his plans. He unleashes high-mass weapons next. The strike is so powerful it pierces through the holy oak goblin, obliterating the entire goblin territory and killing all of its inhabitants. The system declares the protagonist, whose in-game name is Nebula, the winner. He stares at the screen, debating whether to play another round against Hegemonia. Having cleared every milestone the game has to offer, he was considering quitting altogether. But then he receives a message. The system informs him that he is the only gamer to have cleared all achievements and thanks him for playing. It further reveals that Lost World was only an early access beta, and the official game will soon be released. Nebula is invited to enjoy the true game before its public launch. Shocked, he reads the final prompt. Would you like to start? He hesitates only briefly before clicking yes. Suddenly, he is summoned to a grand temple. Looking around in disbelief, he wonders if this is a dream. He realizes he is dressed as his in-game avatar. A figure approaches, addressing him first by his gaming name, Nebula, then welcoming him properly by his real name, Aldine. Aldine is stunned. How could they know his true identity? He glances around and sees other shadowy figures nearby. The mysterious person gestures, and a world appears before them. At first, Aldine mistakes it for Earth, but after countless hours of playing, he immediately recognizes it as the Lost World. The figure turns to Aldine and the others and declares, "You have now become true gods." The shadowy figures grow uneasy, along with the protagonist. One of them begins to explain that the Lost World isn't just a game. It's an actual world that was abandoned by the gods due to an incident in the past. The planet once had a brilliant civilization where different races lived in harmony. However, for reasons unknown, the gods left it, and now it's time to find new ones. The game Lost World was created to find suitable candidates to become the new god of the planet. The rules are similar to the game itself. Players must gain the belief of others. Ultimately, amassing a large number of believers who worship them will allow a player to ascend as the god of the planet. Whoever becomes god can do anything they desire. All of their wishes will become reality. There is only one chance to quit, right now. Those who give up will be sent back to their daily lives with no memory of this place. However, once the challenge begins, there is no turning back. If a player is defeated by another god, they will die. The time has come to decide. Those who wish to give up may do so, while those who accept the challenge must randomly select a small area in which to begin their journey. The protagonist realizes this is just like the game, then notices several of the shadowy figures disappearing. He guesses they've already given up. The maximum number of players in Lost World was 32, and after some left, he estimates around 27 remain. The guide instructs the protagonist to select a card to determine his starting area. He recalls that in the game, players usually chose their areas based on rankings. He picks a card and is shocked at what he draws. Instantly, he is teleported from the temple. The next scene unfolds in the Lost World, where a frogman hunts fish. He catches a large one, and another humanoid frog leaps with joy. Suddenly, the frogman notices a majestic butterfly, something he's never seen before. The butterfly is actually the protagonist's surveillance. The card he had chosen was Insect. His starting area is among the insect race, known for having the lowest win rate in the game. However, the protagonist sees potential. Because his area is located in the eastern part of the continent, early battles are rare, giving him time to prepare. He reasons that a race that eats insects could be a good starting ally. The real challenge lies in the sheer number of tribes, around 500 in total. In Lost World, players can only exert influence over creatures equal to the level of faith they possess. The frogman's faith level is only 10, far too low. Searching nearby, the protagonist notices lizardmen. They also eat insects, can survive without water, and their numbers have dwindled, making them a promising option. He then spots a badly injured lizardman who had been cast out of his group during a power struggle. The more abandoned and hopeless he feels, the more likely a small miracle could push him toward faith. The protagonist decides that this lizardman will be the first step in his rise to godhood. The lizardmen are walking under the scorching desert sun when they notice a wounded gazelle. They ferociously attack it. The group of strong lizardmen devour the gazelle to fill their bellies, sparing nothing for the old or injured. In moments, the gazelle vanishes, leaving behind only bones. One lizardman tells the others not to eat the bones, but instead to give them to those who cannot hunt. The old and injured gnaw on the bones, savoring the marrow that is still delicious to them. Another lizardman calls out to jail, declaring that while it is fine for the old and young to eat leftovers, the injured should not be given resources. However, another reminds them that the injured lizardman, Rak, once blocked a saber-tooth's attack and saved many lives. To treat him shamelessly would be wrong. Late at night, while the lizard men sleep, Rak wakes and notices a majestic butterfly. As he rises, one of the lizard men stirs and sees that Rak is finally leaving the group. They watch from afar. Believing there is something special about the butterfly, Rak follows it, only to suddenly discover a mountain of beetles, enough food to feed the entire group. A system window appears. The group of lizard men has experienced a miracle. The protagonist is relieved it worked. The beetles will sustain the lizard men for several days. Feeling blessed, Rak acknowledges the divinity of the discovery and names it the nameless beetle god. The protagonist is surprised that he chose a beetle god instead of the butterfly, but he knows that no great names exist at the beginning. Smiling, the protagonist realizes that Rak will be very useful to him in the future. The next day, Rak thinks he's starting to see illusions again because no one else can see the majestic butterfly. However, he decides to follow it once more. One lizard man asks where he's going, and Rak tells him that winter is coming, but beetles keep appearing from cold directions. If they head that way, they will freeze to death. Rak feels the need to follow the butterfly, his so-called fantasy. The other lizard man doesn't have faith, but he decides to trust and follow Rak. If the protagonist can get Rak to believe a little more, he can summon the worm's blessing, which is level 2 or higher. As long as Rak continues worshipping the protagonist, he will experience a future beyond anything he could ever imagine. Rak shouts out to all the lizard men, declaring that the nameless beetle god has brought them to a sanctuary. The faces of all the lizard men are astonished. They are grateful for believing in Rak's fantasies. A system window appears. The divinity level has increased. The level of the small area bug has increased. Blessing of bugs is now possible. The protagonist decides he wants Rak to be his priest and deliver his will to the people. He grants Rak his blessings. That night, while Rak is asleep, the protagonist awakens him into the spirit realm. Rak looks around, asking who is speaking. The protagonist reveals himself, and Rak instantly knows he is looking at the nameless beetle god. In the next scene, Rak appears before the lizard men. He tells them that the nameless beetle god wants them to hunt a buffalo in the wilderness. However, one lizard man argues that they shouldn't put the pack in danger. Another adds that buffaloes are too dangerous, and hunting them means risking their lives. Contemplating what the pack should do, Rakrak declares that he will go alone. Everyone is shocked and some try to stop him, but he insists, saying God gave him blessings. They then notice Rakrak's once damaged shoulder, now completely healed. His shoulder is covered in black scales, resembling those of a beetle. Even then, they still don't believe Rakrak should go. But he shows them how much stronger he has become by throwing a staff yards away, shattering a nearby tree. Everyone is astonished by what they've just witnessed. Rakrak retrieved the staff from the destroyed tree, and the others praised his power. He then heard a noise nearby and shouted that there was a herd of buffalo. One lizard man argued that it was impossible for buffalo to get lost and wander all the way out there. Excitedly, Rakrak jumped off the cliff and attacked a buffalo, striking it directly in the head. The buffalo collapsed and died. The others quickly joined in and began attacking together. Rakrak thanked the protagonist not only for sending beetles but also for sending meat. Later that night, many buffalo were consumed. Rakrak offered one as a sacrifice to the protagonist to show his gratitude for the blessings. Other lizard men watched, then began to bow and urged the protagonist to accept their offering. The protagonist judged the ritual as sloppy and clumsy, but most importantly, he gained far more faith than expected. He had used grasshoppers to lure the buffalo into lizard man territory. As he observed the lizard men, he concluded that they lacked knowledge and skills equivalent to herding. They even ate the baby buffalo. At this rate, they would only survive a few years before dying from lack of resources. They didn't know how to farm or create a sustainable environment. The protagonist knew he couldn't simply give all the answers directly, as it would violate the law of causality. Instead, he thought of a way and granted Rakrak another blessing. The next day, Rakrak woke up early and explained to Jael that he had a dream. In it, the altar was shaking, the pond that had blessed them with fish for many years had run dry, and the land became barren with no plants in sight. Jael reassured him, saying they hadn't reached that point yet and shouldn't worry, because their God would continue to bless them. But Rakrak insisted that he felt things weren't so certain with the God's blessing, and they might be misinterpreting the true meaning of the God's will. He didn't want to betray it. Suddenly, Rakrak noticed a group of stronger lizard men approaching, the very ones who had cast their group out of the main island pack. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. See you in the next one.